Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we're talking about UFC 251 Fight Island located in Abu Dhabi. Now, if you haven't heard the news, the main event has changed. Kamaru Usman is no longer fighting Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns has now been replaced by no other than Jorge Masvidal. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the main card and the different stats that all these fighters present and who I predict will win each and every fight. Now, let's get started on today's video. Okay guys, so we're here looking at the main event card. The first fight we have is Amanda Ribas versus Paige VanZant. Amanda is from Brazil and has an impressive 9-win, 1-loss MMA record, whereas Paige VanZant from the United States has a 8-win, 4-loss MMA record. Looking at their heights, they're exactly the same, 5'4", and we're not going to bother about the weight because that can always fluctuate, and for some reason there's a 40-pound weight difference on the UFC website when we look at their statistics there. Looks like their reach is pretty much the same, 66-inch reach for Amanda, Paige VanZant 65 inches, and leg reach is exactly the same. Alright, now looking at some of their prior wins in the UFC, we've got Paige VanZant with she wins 29% of her fights by TKO, 29% of her fights by submission, and 43% of her fights go to decision. Whereas 33% of all of Amanda's fights are won evenly by submission, decision, or by a KO or TKO. Average fight time is pretty much the same, 11.5 minutes for Paige VanZant, 12 minutes 23 for Amanda Ribas, so nothing really to look at from their past performances there. Now, significant strikes, this is where we can sort of look a little bit deeper into what makes them a bit different. So it looks like Amanda is the much aggressive fighter at 4.84 significant strikes landed per minute, and Paige VanZant, she's still a little bit aggressive. She's got 3.4 significant strikes landed per minute. So that's a big difference between the two fighters. So I'd imagine that if Amanda keeps this trend up, she'll come out the more aggressive fighter, and Paige VanZant will probably be a bit more defensive and choose her spots during the fight. So she won't exert all her energy. She'll take her time and she'll take her opportunities when she sees them, whereas I can just expect Amanda to go a million miles an hour. So it also looks here like it looks like Paige VanZant takes more significant strikes per minute. She's taking 2.63, so she's going to have to focus on her defense, and hopefully if she can do that, she won't take as much damage. She can maybe win the fight that way, so we'll see what happens. Looks like there's a big difference here. So Amanda has the better defense at 74%, so she's blocking a lot of strikes, and that's going to be very useful against a fighter like Paige VanZant. Paige VanZant, unfortunately, is only defending 43% of the significant strikes coming her way. Look, to be honest, when I look at this fight, I've got my prediction would be on Amanda winning this fight. She's won 9 fights, lost 1, and she's very aggressive. I can see her definitely getting the win there, either by TKO or decision. Alright, so our next fight is pretty exciting. We've got a former champion, Rose Namajunas, versus Jessica Andrade. Jessica's from Brazil, and she's 5'1", so she's quite the smaller competitor. Rose is from the United States. She's won 9 fights, lost 4 fights, and she's 5'5". Jessica's won 20 fights and lost only 7, so very impressive from Jessica. Looks like Rose has the reach advantage of 65 inches, and Jessica has a 3-inch disadvantage at 62 inches. Looks like Jessica has a significant leg reach advantage, a difference of 4.5 inches. So let's have a look if Rose will take advantage of that and maybe kick her opponent, maybe take out her legs. So it looks like if Jessica's going to win, It can be any way. It can be a submission, TKO, KO, or by decision. Pretty even with all her fights. So Rose only has an 11% win rate by TKO or KO, and her submission game is pretty impressive. She wins 67% of her fights via submission, and only 22% go to decision. So it looks like if Rose wants to win, she's going to have to submit her opponent, so get her to the ground, maybe choke her out, and hope for the best, whereas her opponent, Jessica, she can win any way. Looking at the average fight time for both of these fighters, Rose Namajunas fights 2 minutes longer on average than her opponent, Jessica. So that doesn't mean too much. So it looks like Jessica is the much more aggressive fighter. She's landing 6.55 significant strikes per minute. That's a crazy pace to keep up. As long as she can keep up that pace, she can overwhelm her opponent and maybe go for the knockout. Rose's significant strikes per minute is only 3.95, so she's probably going to be a bit more defensive in this fight against such an aggressive fighter. Significant strikes, they're pretty similar, 51% for Jessica, 42% for Rose Namajunas. So no advantages I can see there. And absorb per minute, I'm not going to really look too much at that. I don't think that's going to really matter. Okay, looking at the grappling statistics, the takedown average 3 versus 2 pretty much. So you can expect 1 or 2 takedowns in this fight from each fighter. And we've got 58% versus 55% takedown accuracy, so no advantages there. Now, takedown defense, Jessica has a much higher takedown defense at 76%, and Rose Namajunas only has 46%. So it looks like if Jessica wanted to, she'd probably be able to take her opponent down here with not too much difficulty. And with this fight, I'm going to predict that the Brazilian Jessica Andrade is winning this fight. Even though Rose Namajunas is a former champion, I really don't think she can win. She hasn't had a fight in quite some time, and she just doesn't seem to be like her former self when she was winning and was the champion. Okay, so with our third fight, we have our first title fight, and also our first 5-round fight between Petr Yan and Jose Aldo. Now, Petr Yan has an impressive record of 14 wins and 1 loss versus former champion Jose Aldo with 28 wins, 6 losses. Jose is from Brazil, Petr Yan is from Russia. They're both the same height, 5'7", and pretty similar weights. Reach advantage goes to Jose Aldo with 7 inches. Petr Yan has a 67-inch reach. And looking at the leg reach, Jose Aldo has a slight advantage at 40 inches. So he can use that 2-inch reach advantage to get some kicks in. Okay, so looking at their win statistics, it looks like both fighters do not win often from submissions. So I don't think this fight will change anything. They're not going to go and try and submit each other. I think they're going to stand up and fight. They're going to punch each other and try and go for the knockout. So that's what I think will happen in this fight. They're going to keep it standing, and one of these fighters are going to win. So the more aggressive fighter looks like to be Petr Yan with 5.65 significant strikes landed per minute versus Aldo's 3.47. All the other statistics are pretty much identical, so there's nothing really much more to read into the significant strikes. Petr Yan's going to be more, it seems, aggressive, and Jose Aldo is going to sit back unless he wants to take the lead in the fight and maybe push the pace a little bit more. Okay, it looks like they both have a really good takedown defense. Therefore, like I said earlier, the fight will most likely stay standing. So I'll keep my prediction as a standing boxing match pretty much. And my prediction is Petr Yan wins this fight. I mean, he's got a really good MMA record, 14 wins, 1 loss. If this was 5+ years ago, we'd be looking at Jose Aldo winning the fight. But Jose Aldo, I don't think, is the same Jose Aldo that he used to be when he was so dominant and having the title for so many years. Okay, so our fourth fight and second title fight of the night and 5-round fight is between Alexander Volkanovski versus Max Holloway. Now, Alexander is only 5 foot 6 inches, so he's a bit shorter than his opponent Max Holloway at 5 foot 11 inches. Alexander has a pretty impressive MMA record of 21 wins and 1 loss. So he's only lost once. So Max Holloway has a record of 21 wins, 5 losses. Both the same weight, and looks like, surprisingly, Alexander has the higher or the better reach advantage at 71.5 inches versus 69 inches, which is quite confusing because he's much shorter than Max Holloway, so I'm not too sure how that works. Looks like the leg reach advantage actually goes to Max Holloway though, 42 inches versus 36 inches. So Max Holloway is going to be trying to kick his opponent, I believe. His last fight, he focused on punching too much, and that sort of cost him the fight. Alexander was able to kick Holloway's legs, sort of weaken him, ground him down that way, and he just ended up winning the fight via decision. So I'm expecting a different Max Holloway in this fight. We don't want him to just box like he always does. We want him to sort of go for leg kicks, maybe even go for a takedown, change it up a bit, because if he's just going to stand up, I don't think he can beat Alexander. He can't follow the same recipe or game plan that lost him the first fight. So it looks like with both of these fighters, most of their wins come from a KO or a TKO, 55% and 48% for Max. They don't win often by submission. So in this fight, unless Max Holloway changes his game plan, this is going to be a boxing fight. Okay, so looking at significant strikes now. So both fighters are quite aggressive, and they have over 6 landed strikes per minute. Significant strikes per minute, that is. And the accuracy is really good. Significant strikes for Alexander are 57%. And 44% significant strikes for Max Holloway. Okay, so both fighters have a really good takedown defense, but I really don't expect this fight to go to the ground or end in any submissions or anything like that, so we're not going to focus our prediction on grappling. So with my prediction in this fight, I don't think, even though Max Holloway is very talented and can take a punch, I think this fight goes to decision and Alexander wins again. I think it'll be very similar to their last fight. I don't see Max Holloway changing his fight style. He'll keep fighting the same way as he always does. He'll stand and he'll take the damage and he'll give the damage. He'll trade blow for blow. But I think Alexander's a smart fighter and he'll adapt to anything that Max can do. He'll take out his legs just like last time and he'll win the fight via decision. I don't think Max will be knocked out. I think he can take a lot of punishment. He's like a Terminator pretty much. But yeah, Alexander's my prediction for this fight. Okay, now in the main event and the fight I'm most excited for, Kamaru Usman versus Jorge Masvidal. Now, Kamaru Usman has 16 wins and has only ever lost once with his MMA career. He's 6 foot tall and he's versing Jorge Masvidal, who's won 35 fights, lost 13, and he's 5 foot 11 inches. So in terms of reach advantage, Kamaru Usman has a reach advantage with his arms and legs. So you can use that to keep his opponent back and also get those punches in and then move backwards quickly. So with their win by percentage, they're very similar. Their fights end by decision half the time, and the other half is by KO or TKO, and very rarely by submission. So we won't look at that too much. Okay, so it looks like in all their previous fights, their landed per minute is pretty much the same, just over 4 per minute for each of them. So it looks like Jorge Masvidal takes more damage per minute. He's taking 4.18 significant strikes per minute versus Kamaru Usman's 2.17. So a little bit of an advantage there to Kamaru. So looking at their grappling statistics, they both have an amazing takedown defense. So Jorge Masvidal has a 77% takedown defense, but Kamaru Usman has a 100% takedown defense. So it's going to be very hard for Jorge Masvidal to take him down. But regardless, this fight will be standing, I believe. I don't think either fighter is going to want to take it to the ground. Okay, so now I'm going to give my prediction for this fight. So what my head says, who I believe will win, is Kamaru Usman. However, who I would like to win is Jorge Masvidal. I just really like the guy, and I'm becoming a bit of a fan of Jorge Masvidal. So I really want Jorge Masvidal to win, But on paper, I think Kamaru Usman is the winner of this fight. Okay guys, that's the end of this video. Now, if you'd like to support this channel, please click like on this video. And if you can do me a massive favor, please subscribe to the channel. It'll really help me out a lot. I hope you all enjoy UFC 251. And let me know in the comments below who you think's going to win the main event. Jorge Masvidal or Kamaru Usman. See you guys.